what's up? It's Tuesday the 22nd. I'm a day late on this. Yesterday was a crazy day. Well, we had to watch the Saints, and we're part of the Saints Nation here in this house. My wife grew up in Metairie, suburb outside of New Orleans, and and yes, who dat that beat up on the Saints last night? Oh man, that's just it's just goes to show you any game, baby, and go Raiders. So the Raiders won, but I'm still all about the Saints. You know why? Because this is a gerontology class, and Drew Brees is all about being a really old quarterback. All right, so let's hope he gets his act together, and the Saints make a comeback. Okay, all right. So we're in mourning today, but that's all right. So remember last time we talked about mourning and grief. So yes, we're going through the whole DABDA thing with respect to the Saints. All right. So again, this is the view that I have. Your view is a little bit different. I can really quickly bring it back here to student view here, and so we come down here, and this is your thing, guys. You guys we're marching through grading on your first short paper, the critical thinking assignment 1, and we have CT2 coming up right here, October 12th. So do keep your eye on the prize for that as well. All right. So that's the only deadline you really have. And and there's you can start doing the paper. You can look at what the instructions. I'm not going to go to it. Obviously you click right here. It's going to take you to that, and and the key thing, and I'm going to say this over and over again. I'm the millionaire next door because I'm a cheapskate, and so everybody in my family gets new phones. I still have this really old, crappy iPhone, but I still used it back in the day when I didn't do my final term paper for GERO 200. But what I did do is I sat down with my mom and did about a good 6 recordings where I just was able to ask really cool questions and get a feel for our family culture, and then that's passed on to my sons, and if I ever have grandchildren, to them too. All right, so and on and on and on. So you don't miss this opportunity as I'm talking about. So you'll be getting a grade for this, and then at the same time, tape everything you do, because you'll have this really good archive of your family culture, which will go on for generations to come. All right, cool. All right, so where are we here? So we are, we're going to jump right into here, okay? And not there, sorry. We're going to scroll upwards into here, which is the weekly assignments, okay? Don't forget when we do the discussions, and that's what you guys are going to do. Don't forget that you do one substantive post, okay? And then, so that's 0.75 points in our vernacular, okay? And then, so you get a majority of your half of your credit for that one post, and then the other half of the credit is for doing 3 more on 3 different friends in the class. Okay, and so it's 0.75, 0.1, 1.25, 1.5. That's just the way we do it in terms of calling it the grading. All right, don't forget to do that. All right, very cool. So we're going to be rapidly emerging from the biology. So we did cancer last week, and again, it's pretty personal for us. Okay, especially because Julie's been fighting this for years now. I'm sure a lot of you have been experiencing the same thing. All right, we're next going to go into really the most common chronic disease, and we learned that when we were way back up here in the first assignments. The most common chronic non-communicable disease, all right, this is over a lifetime, is diabetes, and it creates a condition called metabolic syndrome. It is a huge risk for cancer. Okay, obesity is the telling kind of issue, and again, there are genetics that are just rifle through families that make you prone to obesity. All right, and coupled with that, then are genetics that make you prone to diabetes, and then there's this, diabetes is kind of like the axle, and all the spokes come out to all these complications. All right, so let's learn about diabetes today, which is super important. Okay, so we'll go back to this. This is a really excellent walkthrough put out by the American Diabetes Association. And they put this out in 2015. Hopefully they'll keep updating this. And it just describes the essence of what you need to know. The diabetes is not a U.S. issue. This is a human issue. Okay, and it is a human issue of Westernization. Okay, in that again, we're going to link it to obesity, and you think about where we come from. Okay, in terms of our ancestors. We, as human beings, millions of years ago, walking the earth, we never knew where the next meal was going to come from. Okay, so what we would do then is we would find a meal and we would just gorge ourselves and just overeat, overnutrition, wow, and and then your body will take all the sugar that you take out of the grains, if that's what it was, the carbohydrates, and you store it, okay? In all your cells is glycogen, but you don't have much storage capacity there. So then our really cool way for storing energy is fat, okay? So we convert all the glucose to fat, we take in the fat, we put it in, even extra protein we can put it in as fat. All right, and we just in fat as triglycerides is really compact, and it's a really compact way to store energy. And so then we would put on the fat, okay, which is all good, and but then we would go through long periods of fasting, okay, because you didn't know where the next meal was going to come from. And so you might go 2-3 days, with no meal, because you think about our ancestors, trucking around, trying to capture things with nets or whatever we were doing, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, okay? And then you would find food and gorge yourself, and you'd cycle through nutrition and fasting, okay? All right, let's fast forward a couple million years, okay, especially over the last 100 years. And what we have through civilization is we have this great ability to make ungodly amounts of food by terrorizing the land and making, having cows and having pigs and grain and bringing it to market. And then all you got to do is walk around the corner to Albertsons and you have unlimited food all the time. Okay. So if you think about who we are evolutionarily, you see food, you eat it. It's just what we're driven towards, So you have a microcosm of Albertsons right over here in your kitchen, okay? Same drill, and all the food's in the pantry, and you the second you feel just like based on time of day or whatever, boom, you go in there and you gorge, So we try and fight it with exercise and things like that, but there's a whole new, I wouldn't call it craze, I would call it a health movement for trying to limit how much we take in, And so Julie and I started this program where we don't eat breakfast anymore. So we try and stop eating about 8 o'clock at night. She's better at it than I am. And then we get up in the morning, have coffee, all right? And then we don't eat our first meal till noon. And just that little bit of time makes sure that all the food that I ate during the afternoon and evening got laid down as fat. It gives me a chance to actually burn the fat, okay? All right, because if you don't, that fat is a huge risk for diabetes. It causes inflammation, and it causes insulin resistance. All right, so speaking of which, this is a real nice publication put out by the World Health Organization right here. I just put the image in, so I don't have the. You say here it is. What am I talking? Here's the link right here. So I'm going to click on this sucker. Hopefully it'll come up. All right, and it was the same thing that you saw on Blackboard as well. All right, so down. And you look at Blackboard. Blackboard's been having some real fun issues lately. Okay, so here we go. Again, this is put out by the World Health Organization. Okay, so any country that has unlimited access to nutrition, you're going to start having these issues. All right, so here's a definition of type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is rare, less than 10% of all the diabetics out there in our world are type 1. This is a unique, unfortunate autoimmune disease. This is where the immune system goes off rails, okay? And there's a lot of autoimmune diseases. And this particular one, the immune system looks at the organ, the pancreas, okay, that is responsible for pushing insulin out into the blood when you take in lots of sugar, okay? I have a piece of bread. I digest the bread into individual glucose molecules, and then my intestines absorb that, and then boom, the pancreas sees all that glucose and it starts pumping out the insulin. Sadly, in type 1 diabetes, the immune system attacks the pancreas and destroys all the insulin producing cells. All right. So this means when the sugar comes into your bloodstream, all your cells, they use it for fuel, all right, and to do everything, just like view your body as one big cell. And if you didn't put any food into it like this, okay, then ultimately my body would stop working, all right? Well, now we're going to hone that down to a cell. If you don't get the glucose into the cell, it can't do all the things that a cell does, okay? How do you get glucose into the cell? You release insulin, okay, right here. And the insulin then binds to insulin. So the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin goes to your muscle cells, goes to your brain cells, it goes to every cell in your body, okay? And it binds to the insulin receptor, and then the insulin receptor says, hey, let in the glucose, okay? And it forms these big channels in the cell, and the glucose goes rushing in. Boom. Insulin releases, the channels are closed, and now your cells can package and use the glucose, all right? All right, so just like you do. All right, so that's part one. All right, again, 90% of diabetics are type 2 diabetics. This is adult onset. It happens much later in life, happens in usually will start happening in your 40s. It can happen earlier if you have a genetic, a predisposition, a family history. In this situation, the insulin is being released, but what happens is, remember those receptors? So here's the insulin floating around. It binds to a receptor like a key fitting into a lock. It goes like this, and then right next door, then poof, a channel is inserted into the cell to let in the glucose, okay? What happens is you get the insulin receptor becomes insensitive. Insulin binds to it, and then it doesn't do anything, all right? And so what's the risk for insulin receptor insensitivity? Okay. First of all, like I said, if you have a family history, then your dietary habits will be super critical. Okay, you're a lot more vulnerable. The biggest risk is obesity. Okay, and so what happens is when you're obese, remember how we were packaging all that fat? Well, the fat gets released into the blood, okay, and then all of your muscle cells, your brain cells, everybody that's supposed to be responding to the insulin, when there's fat around, they become less receptive. Okay, the receptors become insensitive. So this is insulin receptor insensitivity. Okay, so fat is a big one. All right. The other thing that happens is the bigger your fat cells, they actually release hormones. These hormones, okay, make the insulin receptors insensitive. Okay, so it's again, it stops working. All right, and so from that, then, okay, you have lots and lots and lots of glucose. It's kind of like too much sugar on like a honey baked ham. Then all your vasculature and all your organs, they start getting crusty. The blood doesn't flow well. The immune system becomes reacts to it like it's a critter, you know. So let's say, oh, this is a normal protein. The immune system comes up, says, oh, you're good. Doesn't matter. All right. But if I now candy coat that protein, okay, like I just did right here with my mask, the immune system will come up and say, what the hell is that? And it goes, and it starts spewing all this crap all over the place. And then next you know, you got a disease process. Okay, so that's kind of, a real quick overview, a simple overview. All right, it's a world problem. So these are stats, epidemiology. Okay, from 2004, 220 million people worldwide with diabetes. All right, it's right here. We look at the World Health Organization projections. Okay, that we're going to have a doubling in diabetes-related deaths from 2005 to 2030. So this is something we're handing to you as a culture. Okay, our country is the worst. Okay, we have the biggest obesity epidemic. Why? Because we have unlimited food here. All right, we're a country of excess, and we pay the price. Okay, all righty. Almost half of diabetic deaths occur in people under the age of 70 years old. Okay, all right, and And you know, it's, if we look at what's going on in our country, okay, um, we have healthcare, all right. So we will keep you alive. If you get diabetes in lower income countries, it's a bigger issue, and that's what the World Health Organization is talking about there. All righty, all right. So here's the complications. I'm going to go over all this. Diabetic retinopathy. Why? Okay, major blood vessels go to my eyes, and if my blood vessels get candy coated, the immune system destroys it. You get this atherosclerosis, which is this gummy, gooey crap in your eyes. Then the oxygen stops flowing to my eyes. The glucose stops flowing to my eyes, and that's it. The cells will start dying off, okay? And you go blind, and there's no reversing it, okay? Anywhere that has a blood vessel, this is the issue, especially the bigger the blood vessel, the bigger the issue. So huge blood vessels go to my eyes, huge blood vessels go to my kidneys, okay? Huge blood vessels go to, you know, all throughout your body. So a neuropathy, okay, is where the blood vessels are no longer working, and you begin to start killing off nerve cells. So you'll lose sensation, you'll be numb. You have infections, okay, that won't be sensed, okay, and then there's lots of pain, all right. So we see here we have this numbness and weakness in the feet because the nerve cells control this, right? So if they go south because you're not getting good oxygen and good glucose flow, and they start dying off, then you're not going to be able to move. Okay, my nerve cell controlled that whole movement. All right. All right, so we have reduced blood flow, okay? So we're gonna have this increased chance of foot ulcers. Why? What does our blood do? Our blood is the absolute highway system for the immune system to go in there and get rid of bad players, okay? If you don't have the immune system going down there, then the bad players like bacterial infections take over, okay? And it results in, especially the further out you go, like in your toes and your feet, it's really hard to get out there, and as a result, you have limb and amputation. Okay, so I talked about kidney failure, another huge issue. Okay, so obese individuals that become diabetic oftentimes will lose their kidneys. Okay, they'll have to go on dialysis and just hope for a kidney transplant, which is really hard to come by. We have because blood vessels, major ones come to my heart, so we're going to increase the risk of heart disease and a heart attack and stroke by 50%, okay, because of this cardiovascular disease or vascular disease, okay. And lastly, okay, we now know that 80%, 80 of Alzheimer's patients suffer from diabetes, okay, and it's the long-term chronic problem of not getting blood flow to your brain. Alrighty, obviously huge economic impact, and that's what this is talked about right here. Okay, cool. All right, so go ahead and look through that. I'm done with that sucker. Okay, and we're back over here to our page. All right. In here are a couple of short videos that will help you understand this kind of mechanism of diabetes, of this insulin receptor insensitivity. All right. So what we're seeing right here is when insulin binds to the receptor, okay, then what happens is these channels are put into the surface of the cell so you can start pouring glucose into the cell. All right. And you'll see if the glucose is sitting outside in the blood and it doesn't get into the cell, then you're not gonna have the fuel. It's like having a car with no gasoline. So you're gonna have fatigue. You're gonna be hungry, okay? Glucose is in your blood, okay? It eventually gets delivered to the kidneys, right? And glucose travels everywhere with a baggage of water, okay? That's the way it works. All you need to do is take some sugar, pour it into a glass of water, stir it up, poof, just like that, it's gone. It's not gone. It's cloaking itself with water. So everywhere glucose goes, it takes water, including down into your kidneys. And when you have a ton of glucose, you have really sugary urine. You actually have sweet urine because you're peeing out all the glucose. Okay. All right. You pee out the glucose, you pee out the water. Okay. You're going to be thirsty all the time. All right. So these are all symptoms of diabetes. All right. This is a really, really great video then that talks about the complications, okay? So his name is John, and I really...
Hello, everyone. My name's John.
I told you it was John. Okay, Listen to what he has to say. He will then explain the complications, okay? All right, this is the mechanism of diabetes that I was talking about here, okay? I just took in a meal, all right? In fact, I just did have a cookie, all right? In comes all the glucose from that cookie, all right? My pancreas says, whoa, look at all that glucose, so it pushes in the insulin, all right? The combination of the insulin plus the glucose, all right? So the insulin is going to bind to the cell right here, okay? It's going to let the glucose get into the cell, except for when you have insulin resistance, right? When you have insulin resistance, it's not going to happen. This right here is not going to happen, okay? All right. We come down here, then we look at the complications, right? So just think of a honey baked ham. That's what the inner lining of your vasculature looks like in your eye, in your kidney, okay? Deep down in your legs, okay? The immune system flips out, overreacts. You get atherosclerosis, so the blood vessels compress and compress and compress, and the lack of oxygen and glucose, cells begin to die off here, cells begin to die off here, cells begin to die off down here, okay? In addition, the immune system, when it's flipping out, it releases these special immune system messengers called cytokines that can further cause death to the tissue. Okay, it can happen in the brain. So when we look at major vascular problems, you can have what's called a transient ischemic attack. Long term, it'll just cause the early development of dementia, cognitive impairment, and then ultimately Alzheimer's disease. Heart, okay. Again, your heart has major, huge blood vessels because it never stops working. If you have diabetes, those blood vessels get candy coated. The immune system messes with it. They get smaller and smaller. They get these plaques form inside. They're just gross. Okay, here's my heart, blood vessel, it's coronary artery, and then there's the plaque. Okay, so now hardly any blood is going to get through there. Okay, that's what happens. Okay, and then you have a heart attack and you lose a big chunk of heart. Okay, or you can die. And then this is again way deep down in the periphery. Okay, you have all these wounds and things because the blood vessels don't open up. The immune system can't get to the places it needs to go. Okay, awesome. Don't forget, open up the quiz. Okay, and that's a good way to go through this. All right. Now this we come back up here. This is a really cool, simple walkthrough. All right. Again, there's a really good chance that you have a friend or family member that is suffering from diabetes. All right. It is the #1 cause of morbidity or disease in our country. #1. Okay. Ultimately, the #1 cause of death because it is the underlying reason as to why people have strokes, heart attacks, kidney failure, on and on and on. Okay. Cancer, okay, is super high risk in diabetics because of the inflammation that happens, because of the obesity that's associated with that. Obesity is a big risk factor for cancer. So you just take this stroll through diabetes, okay? And again, it begins with nutrition, okay? Talks about how the glucose comes in, okay? Talks about how we release insulin by the pancreas. Insulin goes to, let's say, my muscle cell that's right here in my bicep, okay? Look at those guns. Skeletal muscle cell, okay? And lets the glucose in so that I can keep doing this and this and this and this, all right? Every time I do that, I'm burning the glucose. Bam, 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 okay? All righty. If I don't have insulin receptors working, then I feel really weak because I can't get the fuel in, all right? That's how that works. All right, awesome. So they talk about the buildup of blood glucose, and then so you can't get it in because the insulin, type 1 diabetic, you don't have insulin. That's really sad for young people. Autoimmune disease, okay? It's like multiple sclerosis is autoimmune, ulcerative colitis is autoimmune. There's so many immune diseases, okay? The other one is really, it's a crossroads between that genetic vulnerability, doesn't mean you're going to get it, and lifestyle. Okay, you don't exercise and you eat really crappy food. You have excess nutrition, meaning you overeat all the time. Okay, then you got to balance that. Okay, so a lot of you guys are athletes and you eat, and you're peak performance. Okay, But if your athletic career ends, you got to slow down the intake, or else there's going to be a consequence. You're only going to burn up what you use. Okay, so you in terms of your athleticism, you stop being an athlete, you're just going to store all that as an energy reserve called fat. All right. So these are lots and lots of issues, okay? Our liver is always pumping out glucose too as reserve, and that's kind of beyond you guys, all right? So what happens with hyperglycemia, okay? All right, so we have so much sugar that we're peeing out all the water. So as a result of all this urination, you become really thirsty, okay? It messes with your blood vessels, all right? So you're gonna get blurry vision. All right, like I said, it's a huge risk factor. The candy coating of the blood vessels and the follow-up immune attack of those blood vessels. Because you're not getting the glucose into the cell, right? So remember back here, the insulin's not working, so you're not getting glucose into the cell. So even though you have a ton of fuel floating around in your bloodstream, you can't use it. Okay? You'd like be pulling up to a gas station with a car, but you can't put the gas inside the tank. All right? So you feel really, really tired all the time. All right? The blood vessels are compromised, so you can't get the immune system out there to heal wounds. Okay? You have more frequent infections. Okay? And this later stage makes no sense, but if you can't package all that fuel you're taking in, you actually begin to lose weight. Okay? All righty. And then these are some of the chronic problems: blindness, kidney disease, nerve damage, amputation, heart attack, stroke, and Alzheimer's disease. Okay, cancer is another one. Okay, so it goes through type 1, type 2 diabetes, like I was talking about, and you just kind of list through. I'm not going to go through all these. Okay, so it's pretty simple stuff. This is the troubling part right here. Okay, all right. Who's at risk? Okay, you got it if you're overweight. Okay, this guy's not. Okay, sedentary lifestyle, family history. That's a genetic predisposition. Okay. This is one of those things. If you had gestational diabetes, and that would be the woman, not the men, because we don't make babies. Age is a big risk factor, and then then it has to do right here with a lot of different ethnic groups have a higher risk. Okay, and in large part it comes from your ancestors and what their makeup was and why they stored nutrients the way they do. All right, so this is, looking at our country, obesity, United States from 1994 to 2010. How is this happening? How are we having this epidemic, okay, right, where we're looking at the prevalence, and that's the number of people, as a percentage, okay, 26% are obese. And you see that it started here in the South and it's emerging, all throughout the country. How is this happening? We're an educated country. We should know better. All right. So you can, basically follow the money. Follow the kind of, if you were an attorney, follow the evidence. Okay. And we see obesity here, and right behind it you see diabetes, which is a horrible disease, right there, falling right behind it. So here's some more stats, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, cool. So we went through that, and hopefully I've given you guys some food for thought, okay? But definitely, it's something that we can control, and that's the most important thing, okay? Right, John, watch it, because it's a really cool video that goes through these complications it really impacts you as an individual when you're having to deal with a diabetic parent, grandparent. It pulls you away. You have to be there as a caregiver, right? We talked about caregiving, right? And so you need to, it's time you can't work, time you can't exercise, okay? Time you can't be there for your immediate family because you're doing the caregiving for here. So you guys need to become educators for your friends and family in terms of lifestyle to avoid these things. That's the big, in terms of medicine, that is the new wave right now. Okay, so let's take a look and see how you fare. Now, this is just a fun exercise. We're going to look at our body mass index and see how we rank. Okay, so this kind of gives you, in our discussion, little marching orders in terms of what you need to do. Is it accurate? Where's the errors? If you're an athlete, you have big, thick bones, big, thick muscles, which is going to dramatically increase your body mass index. Okay, so that is that error. Okay. However, it is a measure that clinicians and public health officials will use. Okay. So this is how you get to it. It tells you right there how to go to it. So you just come right in here, bump, 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 right? So, and then you scroll down here to the body mass index calculator. These calculators are just fun, you know, it's just something to do, all right? So you scroll right in there, okay? And so what am I? I am 6 feet, 0 inches, okay? My weight, I'm about 172, all right? Let's see how I do. Calculate, all right? So this is the range, okay? And again, it's, you know, I'm within, you know, so my, we have a below normal, we have an overweight and obese body mass index. So my BMI is at 23.3. So I'm right here. So I'm right in the normal range, okay? You know, again, grain of salt when you talk about this in the discussion. All right, so that's part one, all right? Part two, then we'll come down here and look at longevity or lifespan, life expectancy calculators. There's some really fun ones in here. Just play with them and then, you know, bring that into your discussion. Okay. So there's the one from the Social Security Administration, and there's a bunch of calculators that you guys might find. You know, Social Security retirement estimator. Then down here, this is my life expectancy. But there's all these are calculators and are kind of fun to play with. All right. So go ahead and play with them. What else are you going to do? All right, select. I am a male. All right. Date of birth. Really? Okay, June 30. Guess what year? This is going to blow your mind. They don't even have my year up here. Okay, wait. 1956. That's it. Okay. Submit. Okay. All righty. So these are the averages, okay? So it's kind of shitty, you know, that's just, you know, averages, okay? Yeah, so this is where I'm at, okay? Somewhere right here. All right, let's go back to some other ones that are fun. Now, you know, you have to understand, though, that, that people that are willing to invest for you, okay, they want to also have an algorithm to see whether or not it's worth doling out money to you based on, like, let's say an annuity. Okay, we'll talk about annuities for later on. Do we want to guarantee income to this guy? Well, let's make a little calculation on terms of their life expectancy. So you can do this here or here. Okay, kind of fun to play with. Okay, this is from a drug company. All right, this is an investment company. So we can go right in here. All right, dun 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 dun. Sorry, my internet's a little slow today, and hopefully this thing will come up. All right. Yeah, my internet is way slow today. All right. If that's not working, let's go to the other one. See if that's. There we go. All right. So this one's working right here. All right. All right. So I'm going to select. I am a male. Bam. I'm going to. So this one has a little bit more teeth to it, which is kind of cool. What's my current age? All right. If you guys did the calculation last time, not 67, 64, baby. How did that happen? Do I have a family history of heart disease and cancer? No, right? So that's part of their algorithm. Do I exercise? I exercise a lot, all right? Come on, sucker. Man, my internet's all screwed up. How's my social life? It's pretty good. Uh-oh. This one's work. Oh, okay, that's right. This one's working. 64. Right, I'm not sure what's going on with my calculator here. All right. Anyways, I can't get it to work. Sorry. See if it works on your end. Do I use tobacco? No. So that's working. For some reason, these scales are not working. Maybe they don't give a shit about this stuff anymore. Okay. Do I drink alcohol sometimes? All right. Okay, I'm done. So it says my life expectancy is shown on the gauge to the left. There is no gauge to the left. Uh-oh, this thing's broken. All right, screw this one. Or it could be my internet. Sorry, guys. All right. Let's see what this one does. Yeah, you know, it's my internet. I'm sorry, guys. All right, well, play with them anyways. I'm not gonna go back and retool my internet. All right, so that's it, my friends. So hope you've learned a little bit about diabetes and a lot about things you can do to take care of this. Keep your eyes on the prize over here. Do those calculators for me. I may do a separate video where I use my Ethernet line. I didn't think I was going to need it, but you know, sometimes stuff happens. All right, so you guys take care. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say later.